Hi everyone, my name's Michelle and I'm Mama Loves You DB here on FlossTube, but also over on Instagram as well. This is not the Sunday morning briefing. This is one of two special edition FlossTubes that I wanted to film for Sampler September. The first one, and perhaps the easier one of the two, was this one, and this is the one where I want to show you my antique samplers that I own and also the samplers that I have finished and that I have framed. The second one, which is going to be a little bit more difficult to fettle and to organise, is all the ones that I have as whips, which is quite a few, and all the ones that I would like to stitch as charts, which is a lot. I'll have to do some narrowing down on that one. But I wanted to bring you these today, and I want to show you the ones that I own, as I said, and the ones that I've stitched. I have great joy in owning these antique samplers. I love each one of them for different reasons. They're not necessarily the most ornate samplers that you would find, perhaps some of the ones that have been reproduced, but I really love each one, and I like to think that they have come to stay with me, that I'm the custodian of them. So without further ado, I'm going to show you my samplers. I have shown most of them before, but not this first one. This is a new one to me, and she's a Scottish girl, and this is her. I picked this one up because I just loved the colours, the red and the green and the dark green. And I will stitch her, I will restitch her, and as with all of my antique samplers, when I get around to doing it I will release the pattern. But this is just a very simple red and green, and the banding is in the dark green. So this is Mary A.G. Small from East Weems up in Scotland, and bless her little heart, she was 5 years old, so she was the same age as my daughter when she stitched this, and she's done a brilliant job. She's done a very good job. As I said, I can't wait to stitch this and have it really small. I think it would look lovely. So that's the first one. That's the one I've not shown you. I've never taken this one out of its frame. It's framed in an old Boots frame with a liberal application of tape, and as I said, she came up for sale not very long ago. I haven't done much research into Mary, but I'm hoping that once I get onto Scotland's People, all of these initials will give me some kind of clue as to who she is. The next one is this one. I'll try and get the glare away. So this one is M.A. Denny. M.A. Denny. And the date on this one is up here, 1880. And it says she was born October the 19th. She stitched this when she was 14 years old, but she was born on October the 14th, sorry, October the 14th. And I love this strawberry border around the outside. And I bought this just after I'd stitched Thurza Hudson by Cyrus Naps, and I'll show you Thurza later. And it very much reminded me of her. Now I have done a little bit of work on Maria, get the names right, there's too many M's, Marias and Marys. I have done a little bit of work on Maria, and that again is one of the things that I really enjoy, trying to track down these girls. So I've made some notes because obviously I'm already mixing up my Marys and my Marias. So this is Maria Denny, and she was born in Gravesend in Kent in 1867, and she married Walter Mann, and they had 5 children: Walter, Constance, Ernest, Frank and Herbert. So there we go. Now actually I said she was born in 1867. I think that actually that's her christening date or her baptism date, because on the back it does say born in 1866. Somebody's written on the back born in 1866. I seem to remember that although she'd given her birth date, it wasn't actually that helpful in trying to find her, and I actually found her on the baptism records for the following year. So I think the date that I've just given you, 1867, is actually her baptism date, and she was born in 1866. This one is perhaps my most, I don't know what you, it's not flamboyant, it's certainly not flamboyant, but perhaps my most decorative sampler. And this is definitely another Mary. This is Mary Ann Appleby. Now I'll try and cut down the glare on this one. You've got a big passage at the top, which I'll read to you in a minute. And then you've got these lovely flowers and this great big plant. Is it plant or apple tree in the middle? And a strawberry border, which has got reds and blues and greens. And when I bought this, I was as interested in the back as I was in the front, because this sampler has been in this frame since the 1890s. And on the back, it's been covered with all of this paperwork. I'm not sure if it was a newspaper or a newsletter or something of that type from the Rescue Society. 79 Finsbury Pavement, London. And it talks about articles about the friendless and the fallen. And it talks about poor outcast women in need of salvation and girls in danger of becoming so. They wanted £1,500 before December the 31st to contribute towards their mission. And again, I've not taken her out of the frame. I can see the back of her because the frame at the back is sort of coming away, but I need to pluck up the courage and find the skill to take her out. So it says at the top, shrinking from the cold hand of death, I too shall gather up my feet, shall soon resign this, sorry, there's a lot of glare, fleeting breath, and die my father's God to meet. So it's a little bit of a dour one again. I quite like the dour ones though. So Mary Ann, and again, let me insult my notes, was born in 1823 and she died in 1893, and she was from Capel St Mary in Suffolk. She married Edward Robinson and they had 12 children. 12 children. Mary, Jane, Mary Ann, William, James, Martha, Samuel, Hannah, Caroline, Charles, and one who was recorded as an infant, so presumably passed away. Now I haven't got the birth and death dates for all of those children, so I'm not entirely sure how many survived, but she gave birth to 12 children. That puts her already way up there in my estimation. Another one that I've got is this one here. And this is actually a very dark purple, unframed by Sarah Ann Dunn, 1856. And it says, meekness is wisdom, grace is the cure for sin, nothing is gained by sin. And lovely hemmed edge, 2 or 3 alphabets, a saying, and then the phrase at the bottom. So you see what I'm saying? All of mine are not necessarily the most ornate samplers, but I really like the sayings on them. They're a little bit, I suppose, more towards the dark end of the spectrum. And as you can see, I'd actually already bought a needlepoint silk in 106 called Pansy Purple, or Pansy Purple range. I think it's the darkest of the Pansy Purple ranges, in order to stitch her. So then we move on to the Unfinished Sampler series. So if you don't follow me on FlossTube, or you're new to my channel, I have a series called the Unfinished Sampler series, and I suppose I have a little bit of a cheat calling it the Unfinished Sampler series because I've only actually released one, and it is what it says on the tin. The idea is that I bought an unfinished sampler, and then I chart it and then release it. And the charts are free. If you go onto the show notes for any of my floss tubes, certainly the most recent, probably 15 or 20 of them, I have got links to my Google Drive which contain the chart for this. And my challenge to you was to finish it. So this is number 1. This is the Maude. I called her Maude after our lovely friend Laura who is the serial starter. Her Instagram name is Maude Mozart. So this is number 1, Maude. And I'll put the hashtags at the bottom, so if you want to go and have a look and see what people have done. And then this is my one that I stitched. So I know it's stitched on 36 count, and I want to say oaken. I want to say it's stitched on 36 count oaken. And it says there, wrought by Michelle, aged 41. And then this is a I don't know, a homage I suppose to my my Auntie Jeannie, who was my godmother. Her initials are there, and I've also put my daughter's initials there because her middle name is Jeannie. And I picked motifs from the Brenda Keyes sampler book to finish it with, and just chose my own colour palette. So if you want to have a go, that is what the chart looks like, exactly that, including the little ampersand at the bottom, and then you just finish it with whatever you like. So that was number 1, Maude. Number 2 in the sampler series, I haven't charted yet, but I'm hoping to get to it before the end of the year. And it's this one. So very simple border and quite a pale alphabet on the linen. There's the little start of something here, but not very much else. So when I chart this, I'll chart the border fully, and I'll chart the letters, and then you have all this space at the bottom to do with as you wish. Now when I showed this one before, I was asking what her name should be, and had lots and lots of suggestions, and the one that's always really stuck with me for this one is Ivy. So number 2 in the sampler series, hopefully before the end of the year, will be Ivy. So as soon as I've charted that one up and stitched the border that's there, I'll release her and you can all have a go. And then number 3 in the sampler series, the unfinished sampler series, actually already has a name, because this is a girl after my own heart. It says Jane Melly's Applehead, work finished 1823. So that was the bit that she did. She finished stitching that part and not a massive lot else. So she's put her stamp on it already. This is my finished work. She just hasn't got around to finishing it, which is definitely a girl after my own heart. So I love this one. Again, I bought her already in a frame. I've not taken her out of the frame, but you can see this lovely apple tree here, and then there's these 2 cool little people. They make me think Dutch. I can't find her anywhere on Ancestry UK. Jane Melly's Applehead, and it's spelt quite distinctively, apple and then H-E-D. So there's something about it that makes me think maybe Dutch, but I don't know. But I do like those 2 people there. This woman here has got a very long face and no neck. She's literally a blockhead. And he's definitely a little fella. So is he a boy? Are they a couple? I don't know. And then we've got a bit of a wave border there and half a tree, and a couple of cool little birds at the top. So again, ooh, excuse me, hiccups. When I get round to it, I will chart all of this and then release Jane as the unfinished sampler number 3, and you can have a go at charting her and finishing her how you like. As I said, if you want to do those charts are absolutely free, but there is a link to my page, my JustGiving page, for a cancer charity, for Macmillan Cancer, in memory of my good friend that I worked with at my current school, Larry, and of my dad. So if you want to chuck a fiver in there or whatever, then please do. Don't feel you have to, but if you can, that would be lovely. Right, I'm going to pause now and I'm going to bring over all my samplers that I have. I might give them a bit of dust as well, and I look forward to showing you those. So let's have a look at the ones that I have stitched and framed up. So in no particular order, I'm just going to take them off the top of the pile and see if I can remember where they all come from. So this first one is a small one, and this is the HF Sampler by Darling Whimsy Designs. Excuse me, little itchy nose. And the thing that attracted me to this was the stitcher potentially there made a little mistake and just kind of went over it. And so, yeah, that's a girl after my own heart as well. Just stitch over that, just leave it there. So you can get that one by PDF, I believe, from Etsy, from the Darling Whimsy Designs shop on Etsy, and I will link it below. This one, I just realised I've actually got another one that I've forgotten to bring. I'll have to go and grab it in a bit. This one is Thurza Hudson, and this is by Whilst Iris Naps Designs, and I just absolutely love the colours. This is stitched on a piece of, I think it's 36 count Pitch This plus vellum. I think, I'd have to check. If it's any different, I'll write it down below. So she's not a very big sampler, she's only small, but I just absolutely loved the border. And you can see why it reminded me of the sampler that I then bought. Very similar border. And again, you can get that as a PDF download directly from Whilst Iris Naps Designs website, and I will link that below. Now this little lady, Mary Katherine Harris, they're all Marys, I've got a lot of Marys, has become quite famous. You'll probably recognise her from lots and lots of FlossTubers and Instagrams. She's just incredible. Every time I look at her, I just think how incredible she is. Look at that zebra. Look at that zebra. Now this is also a PDF, and you can get the PDF for £5 from Erna Hiscock, and I will put the details down below. I was for a time helping Erna to distribute these charts, but I think she's all back up and running now with her internet and everything, so I'll put her contact details down below, and then if for any reason you don't have any joy, then let me know and I'll see what I can do to help. But she's just phenomenal. Who's next? Oh, I haven't seen this one for quite a while. I have to say, bit of dust on this, 2 seconds. I have to say, to my shame, some of these have just been sort of stacked, waiting to go on the wall. This is by Hands Across the Sea, and this is the gorgeous Mary Clayton, and she's stitched on a piece of 36 count linen that I hand dyed, and so it's got quite a bit of variegation to it, but I just absolutely love those angels with their horns and the birds and this row of flowers at the bottom. Wouldn't that make a great drum? Wouldn't that make a lovely drum? In fact, the house would make a lovely drum as well. So that is Mary Clayton, and I just remembered actually I changed the little dog to a Dalmatian. So Albus is in Mary Clayton. Forgive me, I'm just carefully putting these down. Okie dokie, who else have we got here? This one. Now this is Anne Davis from one of the Antique Needlework Quarterly magazines. Sorry, I always struggle with Antique Needlework Quarterly and Punch Needle and Primitive Stitching magazine, and when I've got the first word I normally get the rest of it then. She's one of the Antique Needlework Quarterly magazines. I'll have to put the number down below. Now I didn't stitch her in the suggested colours, I tried to stitch her in the colours that looked more like her original sampler. I didn't like the conversion that they'd done, so I tried to get it more towards the original. And she's actually a Welsh girl. So the reason I picked her, several reasons. She's a Welsh girl, she's got to come and live back in Wales. Capel Isaac is not very far away from where I live, and it was stitched on the 28th of July, which is my birthday. So, or finished on the 28th of July, which is my birthday. So I love this one, absolutely love Anne Davis. So she just hangs on my wall. That's right, I thought I spotted a bit of fluff there. You'll notice that I generally now don't frame with glass. I've got a few pieces that are framed with glass, but I generally don't. I prefer them without. Okie dokie, this one. Now you'll probably be familiar with this one. This is another Hands Across the Sea. This is Jane Marshall, and Jane Marshall was released quite a while ago now, and the proceeds went to the Australian wildfires efforts. And you can see that lovely, lovely blue. You can actually see it better close up. Now I framed these myself, so there might be the odd bit where perhaps I could have done a bit of better job, but finished is better than perfect. So, or it'll do me better than perfect anyway, and I can enjoy it on my wall. So this is Jane Marshall, and I absolutely love this border at the bottom. I think this is a piece of 36 count summer khaki, I think. And so I maybe tweaked the colours just a little bit, just to get them to stand out on my fabric. But I really like that one. She was the first sampler I stitched, really, and I never really had got into samplers, and I didn't necessarily think, oh, they're for me. But once I'd stitched this one, that changed. That really changed for me, and I absolutely love them now. So I've got a few more to go. Not many. I haven't got as many as Brenda. But that is sampler goals, isn't it? Every time I see the lovely houses from Brenda and the girls from Needlework Press, oh god, there's even a spider on that one. I'm just in awe of their houses and all the lovely samplers that they have. One day. This one is actually it's not a reproduction sampler. It's a sampler that's been put together by the SubRosa on Etsy, and it's called Rosa Hamilton. It's called Rosa Hamilton, but I've changed the name to Barbara Candelish, who was my maternal grandmother, who was a Scottish lady, and she was born in 1910. So I kept a very similar colour palette, I think, to suggested, and then just changed the names. All of the big alphabet is done with eyelet stitches. And yeah, I've got Harriet Co to show you as well. Is it Harriet Co? Harriet Elizabeth Co. And that was the first one that I'd done the eyelet stitches on. And then once I finished it, I thought, I'm never doing those again. And then give it 3 or 4 weeks, I was like, fancy doing some eyelet stitches again. So I picked this one out because it had the eyelet stitches in the alphabets. And this is on a piece of hand-dyed even weave, this one. There we go. Another Whilst Aris Naps Designs, before I get to show you Harriet Elizabeth Co. And this is Ada Bilson. This is on a piece of 36 count Seraphim, and I think it is called Dead Sea Scrolls. I think it's Dead Sea Scrolls. And I stitched Ada in, not on Ada, but in similar colours to called for. So I found what I had in the called for and then I subbed in what looked similar from what I didn't have. And she's quite in a similar vein to lots of my samplers. A good chunk of alphabets at the top, a bit of wording at the bottom, and then her name at the bottom. So she stitched this in 1863. And if you're interested in any of the Whilst Iris Naps designs ones, and also the Hands Across the Sea ones, very, very often inside the front cover of the chart is a piece about the original stitcher, if Christina or Nicola have been able to track them down. So that's Ada Bilson. She was a lovely stitch. Two more. I've got two more. Well, technically I've got three more, but I have left one downstairs. I might just put a picture in of that. In fact, let's do that now. The one that I've got left downstairs is Florence May Piggin, and she's also a Whilst Iris Naps Designs chart, and she is a red sampler, and she is one of those ones which is horizontal. And I've actually seen that somebody has made a drum out of her as well, and she looks fantastic. Oh, big tractor! So she looks fantastic as a drum as well. So I'll put a picture of her in here. She's stitched on 36 count, either platinum or cream, I can't remember which, using sulky thread. And I love sulky thread on 36 count. I think it gives fantastic coverage. Two more. So as I've said, I have got Harriet Elizabeth Co, who is by Brenda Gervais. And again, she's got glass on. I stitched her before I decided that I didn't really care for glass that much. And so she's got a beautiful border, lots and lots of eyelet stitches in the big alphabet. And I think this was supposed to be eyelet stitches as well. But by the time I got to that point, I had well and truly given up on eyelet stitches. And so they're just made up of little crosses. And then there's her name at the bottom. I put my initials up there. And she stitched this, or it's dated 23rd of March, 1844. And she's a really lovely stitch as well. I've seen quite a few people doing her at the moment. And then the last one I've got to show you today is from Antique Needlework and Sampler Quarterly Magazine. And she is in the very, very first episode. What do you call it? Edition. First edition, the very, very first one. Now, if you don't have the Antique Needlework Sampler Quarterly CD ROM, which has got all 80 editions in it, and Lee said episodes again, all 80 editions in it, then it is well worth getting hold of, because it means that you can stitch everything and anything in all 80 of those magazines. And this is Maria Dale, and Maria was 6 when she stitched this. It says, if the spring put forward no blossom, or put forth no blossom, in summer there would be no beauty, and in autumn no fruit. If youth be idle, maturer years will be miserable. I think that's quite a heavy thing for a 6-year-old. I think she must have been a very serious little girl, already planning. I bet she had a pension. I bet she wanted a pension. So, yeah, very, very kind of dour for a 6-year-old, but I just loved stitching this. And it is stitched using Gentle Arts, and I still never know whether it's Blue Spruce or Spruce Blue. It's one of the two, and it's a very, very dark green blue. And again, with these ones, with this one, I had the frame made and then I framed it myself. And that's my collection so far. And it is so far because I'm still adding to it all the time. And you'll see when I show you all my whips that if I get all my whips finished, I will have a house full of samplers and I can't wait. So thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you again very soon. Stay classy, stitchers.